Welcome to the For Real Though Show, the podcast with a purpose for the people. I am your host, Christopher Keith. Welcome. Hey, while you're at it, we on this YouTube thing. While I'm thinking about it, I never really think to say this, but I should. Um, Yo, man, if you're checking it out, you got a YouTube page or something, even if you don't do nothing on it, hey, subscribe to the show. If you like what you're listening to, hit the like. If you don't like what you're listening to, hit the down button. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. But I'll just ask you this: if you hit the thumbs down button, then at least make a comment and say why it's thumbs down. Like I think that's only fair. But why would you not like the For Real Though show? There's no reason at all. So anyway, yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps with the algorithms. And if you feel like this is good information coming out here, whether it's entertaining or informative or both, then it'll help us get the word out. All right, appreciate you. So, your boy started going to work out at the gym about a month ago, and I'm comfortable saying it now because I've actually gone more than once. So I've had this uh, gym membership to this company, local company not far from me, for a few years now, and I never went. So what ended up happening, I got it on sale. It was like they were running a special, so I ended up getting a special, but which was saved me a lot of money. I just wasn't going. And most of that is because, uh, well, you kind of got to get used to going, but I work a full-time job and I referee seven sports, so I'm always out in them streets anyway, and I tend to get a lot of cardio, but I haven't had any weight training or resistance training and stuff like that. So I just knew there was something I needed to do. And I feel good saying it now because I've actually started going like 3 to 4 days a week. I said I'm probably averaging 3 days a week at least. So that's been pretty cool. My schedule's been a little slow, so we have to see what happens because football and field hockey and softball, fall softball will be kicking up soon. So we'll see how I do. But uh, I want to talk about that process, not so much me just going to the gym, but what happens when you go to the gym? Like the first time, like I used to go way back in the day, a couple decades ago. Uh, but when I went, it's like all these other memories flood me about like things that happen to you mentally when you first go to the gym. You haven't been. The first thing you notice is, you start looking at all the machines and the weights and stuff, and you see the people working out, and it won't take long before you see somebody that's like already super buffed out, muscles everywhere, nice thin waist. You know what I'm saying? Very well versed about what they're doing on the machines, or the weights, the free weights, whatever the case may be. And it's easy to, kind of like be discouraged right off the top because you're looking at like myself, looking at myself, I'm like, okay, got this frumpiness going on, you know what I'm saying, in certain places. And so it gets kind of it could be it could off-put you. It's a little gnat in here. It could off-put you, so I realized what I was doing, and I realized that it wasn't even right. Like it wasn't even thinking logically because, um, number one, you leave out so many factors when you compare the journey that you haven't even started yet, in my case, versus people who Lord knows how long they've been in there. They've been working on themselves for quite a while in that area. But it also leaves out a lot of other factors that you don't even realize, like age, body type, metabolism, your level of experience, the kind of genes you got, you know. And the fact of the matter is, all these different flavors in the gym to me are dope. You know what I mean? They're all dope because everybody in there is trying to improve on something. You know what I'm saying? It takes effort to get up and drive or walk or fly, whatever you do to get to the gym and to work on these things. So I would say, like, for the people who are really out there and you can see the results is a good thing because you can see what's possible for you if you say the course, right? So I'm going somewhere with this. So, but the main reason why I started going to the gym, is just kind of a state of urgency, if you will, and intention in all areas of my life. There are very few elderly, obese people, if you think about it. And when you go to the doctor's office, why, like, what's the first thing they do? First thing they do when they go to the doctor's office, before they take your blood pressure, before they take your temperature, unless you're in the emergency room or something like that, the first thing they do is get your butt on the scale. And, based on your weight, there's just so many other factors they could tell you what you may be susceptible to, whether it's high blood pressure, whether it's diabetes or something like that. They're able to tell a lot by your weight compared to your height and whatnot. And again, body types are different, so it's not a total scientific, zero sum game, but it does give you an indication. And I'm really good at studying. I'm really good at working on my mental strength. I'm really good at learning how to meditate and purposely work on rewiring the crappy stuff I've learned in my mind and unlearning some things and relearning some things. So I'm really good at that. I'm good at uh trying to improve my information level, uh my diversity level of where I receive information, learn about new areas where it's just great things going on all the time. I'm really good at that, but I hadn't been good so much at the physical part because again, refereeing seven sports, get a lot of cardio in, but not the other thing. So that's just for good balance sake, right? And when I got to the gym and I was looking at all these different areas where people were physically, it made me like parallel that to where people are mentally, because just as you have a physical walk when you go into that gym and you see people are all different walks of life, some are heavy, some are skinny, you know what I'm saying? Like again, every body type you can imagine. You go to the gym for a week, you're gonna see it. And I thought about that. Everybody's on this different journey, right? And everybody's journey is going to be unique. And I thought about this in terms of our own journey outside of the physical, our spiritual journeys, if you want to call them that, our purposeful journeys, like what are here for, what gets us excited, what gets us out of bed, uh, the dreams we may have. And so I was kind of paralleling too. Not too long ago, I visited a friend of mine, who he was out of hospital, so he was in rehab. But at the time when I visited him in the hospital, he wasn't in a good place at all. And he wasn't in a position to do much for himself, if anything. Uh, and physically, so we just talked. As a matter of fact, he couldn't talk at the time. I was doing all the talking. But as I was talking to him, all I could think about was, as he laid in that bed, was I thought about, this is a person, and I wonder it what it would be like if he figured out exactly what he wanted for himself and then went after that. Like, what did this brother want in his life? Like, does he even know? Um, because, like, he's doing much better now, thankfully, but it's like physically he couldn't do nothing. And I'm thinking of like, what if he can't, like with the possibility of him having to be able to regain his physical strength, like it just would be a shame for if he would have died, or anybody, but I'm thinking about him in particular at this point, without ever really figuring out, diving into exactly what he wanted for his life, and then to go after it. What kind of person he wants to be. Uh, does he still have career goals? Does he have inventive goals, creative goals? Uh, personal growth goals. And I was like, man, it would just be a shame, if he didn't get to realize that. And, obviously I brought it back to myself, because everything I'm wanting to do with myself is really living intentional. What do I mean by intentional? I mean, every day deciding that instead of this day influencing me based on circumstances, life and whatnot, that I would influence life. I would influence life instead of just everything coming at me and I'm reacting to it. Um, and like that's a conscious learning slash unlearning thing to do because trust me, I know most of the time, for me anyway, most of the time when I would get up, I wake up and it just be go time, you know, especially during my most busiest times of the year, between working and extracurricular working, it could get very taxing. So, you wake up and you just end up reacting to everything. You're not pushing buttons, if you will. You know what I'm saying? You're not plodding your way. You're just trying to navigate. And so I thought about it, so as I sit there with my brother talking, and then I'm thinking about the gym and all of this stuff kind of like coalesced into like one series of universal thoughts that I had about life and about the urgency of life. And one of the things I thought was, man, what are we doing for ourselves? What are we doing? Like, what about you? Right? What about you, the listener? What about you? What are you doing to maximize your happiness? What are you doing to maximize what you believe is your purpose? And when I say what your purpose is, I mean something that excites you, something that if you're doing it, whether you're getting paid to do it or not, you would just do it because you love to do it. Or, it could be music, it could be, again, something creative, it could be something technological, any of that stuff, right? But like we tend to live in this world of where people are like, they present anyway as like a zero sum game, right? Zero sum, you either one thing or the other. So people tend to be like either narcissistic, all into themselves, don't care about nobody else, you know, or they, like I said, they present that way, or at least that's what's highlighted. And then you got other people who are servers and they try to make other people's lives better and they live a life, kind of a sacrifice. Well, I guess both of them can be sacrificial. You either sacrificing other people or you sacrificing yourself. But I think that there's a missing element in there that at least I know I've never really been taught. You know, it's just something that I've thought of and discovered just by being around. And not that it's something new, it's just that when you have a curious mind, things come to you. So, I truly believe, to live a life of service to others, it's a good thing. It's a worthy thing, and it's something that I would hope all of us would do. And I really believe that, we should do what we can, to contribute to society and mankind in a way that influence and impact the world that makes it a little better, safer, manageable, than what we were born into. And, there are many ways to do that. But the flip side is that service should not be prioritized so much that you neglect the opportunity to experience an adventure that excites you, fulfills you, gives you a sense of meaning, joy, wonder, to the point where it tickles you just to be alive at any moment when you think about that stuff. And I just think it'd be a great tragedy, and one that I don't want to experience, having lived and died, and then get a dose of reality of what you could have been if you were not focused on the wrong stuff. So some people, They might want to live forever. You know what I mean? Well, number one, I know there's enough receipts out there to know that ain't gonna happen. But I believe the urgency of life and realizing that it's not gonna always be here, should, at least for me, it pushes me to want to maximize this thing. But a big element of maximizing that I was never taught, was never taught. Again, this is something I'm currently discovering. I'm like real time discovering is that your life, my life, you ever hear this expression? Um, you can't love others unless you love yourself. That particular phrase I have grappled with, you know, for as many years as the first time I've heard it. And I'm sort of a technical thinker. So, the first thing I thought was that's a lie. Like it's not correct. You cannot love yourself and love another person like. So I've grappled with that. Uh, and then I've discovered discovery. That's what I love about like that's one of the coolest things about life is discovery. I've discovered that I understand what that means now. Or put it this way, I'm understanding it better. Uh, and I believe what it's really trying to tell us in that phrase. And there's all sorts of signals and phrases and paragraphs that we've heard over time that they just kind of slip past us though, is you don't have the ability to give someone the very best of you if you're not coming from a place of receiving, recognizing, and resonating, living in the best of who you are with knowledge, right? And I don't mean just to know you got a gift or a talent. I mean to really just know who you are and to love yourself. Love that body you walked into the gym with. You know what I'm saying? Love your quirks and your personality, your differences. And I believe that for some reason, I don't know why. I don't know whether we were trained this way or what. But like you go to the gym, like the problem with looking at other people beyond seeing what's possible or what's available for you if you keep with your own process is that you're comparing. And the one thing about comparing is this, you either think you're going to be better off, smarter, or whatever than somebody else, better looking, better dressed, whatever the case may be, or you're going to think it's worse. And both of those are unhealthy, unproductive, and a waste of time. And most of all, a distraction, a distraction from like when you got your eyes on another person, you're not looking at yourself. You're not looking at what can I do to work on myself, to improve myself. What are these gifts that I have that are untapped? Where's my greatness? Where's my greatness? And how can I fall in love with that greatness in myself? How can I fall in love with my gifts, my talents? And I believe that when you're truly in tune with those, then your love for others is so much more comprehensive. It's so much more complete. It's so much more useful, um, purposeful, with a content and a clarity that is not you being a martyr, right? So a lot of when you love others without loving yourself, you're really just a martyr. But life in itself is not meant for you merely to be a martyr. Obviously, we've had some heroes who were martyrs, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, but before they were martyred, they made their mark so much so that we still can recite, their lines today. We can remember and reflect on what they did today. So, so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, the tools that most of us, you're already gifted. I want to talk about what you're already gifted with. Like, in case you're wondering it, if in case you're like me, who spends so much time serving, so much time giving, so much time wanting not to make sure you're not a narcissist, uh, that I neglect what I have inside of me. If you're like that, then, or if you have anything like that you've dealt with before, then, this may be of service to you. So let's just start by talking about the tools most of us have. And I say most because some of us don't, which is another reason to be thankful if you do. But let's talk about some of the things we're gifted in that we did deal with in our daily walk and tend to forget just because we're so used to functioning on autopilot. You know how you jump in your car and you cut it on, you hit that button to turn that key, and we just take for granted that it cuts on, and until it don't, we never think twice about it, right? But let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you already have. Your five senses. And it sounds so simple. But your eyes. Do you know how sophisticated your eyes are to be able to see, recognize colors, textures, distance, right? Every creature can't see. Some creatures have to use their other senses, to get around, to hunt, to live, to survive, to fend off enemies, but you can see. You can see. And that alone, it's like something that you just can't take that for granted. Let's talk about your touch. Like you could touch your hand or you could touch an object. And when you touch it, you feel it because there's a signal going from your brain to your finger that recognizes smooth, rough, soft, hard, all those things. Like to a degree, that's like a minor miracle, you know? The fact that you could taste, you can smell, you can hear, like it sounds so simple. It sounds so simple, yet these very sophisticated entities are all working for you every single day. And we can get deeper into it, because again, your brain functions in a way that reacts to all of your senses. And think about it, able to dictate your movement. Like I'm moving around right now. I can move to my left, to my right. Those are all things going on in my brain, excuse me, helping me to process this information, to lay down, to get up, go to the refrigerator if you're hungry, to even know that you're hungry, right? There's some like dementia, Alzheimer's patients that won't eat because they don't even know they're hungry, right? So again, it sounds simple, but I'm going somewhere. Over 100 years ago, we were barely beyond horse and buggy. Now we only just got electric car. I mean, we only just got gasoline cars. We got electric ones. And get this, this is the difference between humans and other animals. Like somebody came up with the concept of a car. Use curiosity, science, test, right? Failed attempts, work it through, gathering all the sum of the parts that it takes to make a vehicle. So you don't have to use the horse and buggy. So you don't have to walk. You know, think about that. I mean, don't just be like, I mean, think about the complexity of that. Take it further with cars, we're able to use our brains to drive these cars in our communities where other people are using their brains to drive these cars and operate in communities without hopefully, most of the time, crashing into each other, right? It sounds simple, man, but it's really amazing. You don't know none of those other people out there, right? But you just driving, and then, your brain tells you to, okay, slow down, hit the brake, tells you how hard to hit the brake, right? I mean, these are all things that if you have all these functions, man, my God, you are winning. You already came to the set with a certain amount of gifts and talents, right? You came ready to do work. You came able to process information, you know, to do these things, and you again, you take it for granted, but hey man, dogs are smart, lions are smart, elephants are brilliant, right? Killer whales, orca whales, sperm whales, blue whales, like they talk, they got their own sophisticated language, been going on for millions of years, but they can't make a car. Elephant can't make a computer, right? And so I say that to say, just consider how beautifully and wonderfully you're made. And I ain't even talked about planes, space flights, skyscrapers, pyramids, or the ability to make music that can excite you, that can make you cry, can trigger your emotions for joy, right? And they have nothing to do with logic or theory, just the sound again, but you can hear that sound. And when that person plays the sound, they know that they're playing a note or a chord that's going to touch you. And when you hear it, it touches you. That's amazing. So when you look at stuff like that, that's why I don't really understand conservatism, if you will, because unless you go all in like some coaches do, you know, really you just kind of pontificating because if you think about it, people call themselves conservatives, all the time while riding planes, using the latest iPhone and watching a 75-inch 8K TV. You know what I'm saying? 8K 8K smart television. It's like, so what are you conserving, sir? You know what I mean? Trying to make laws go backwards and stuff for a conservative perspective while you are benefiting and consuming all of the latest and greatest of technologies. Hey, and while you're tripping, you know, old religious folks used to think that if you were smart, that was the devil anyway, because you're trying to outsmart God. You know what I'm saying? So, yo, I digress. But my point is, you have all these gifts and these natural tools, right? And you have some basic skills, learned abilities, and you learn people all around you. But you, the individual, have something that no one else has. You have something that no one else will ever have, never has had, never will have, you know. And you can't let yourself get caught up in them comparisons because them comparisons just make you lose focus. And remember, man, you are one of one. And when the entire history of the universe and all of creation, let me say that again, when you look at the entire universe, most of which man himself would never scratch the surface of. So you're still gonna only be one of one. Therefore, like comparison is so short-sighted and an utter waste of time because you're comparing yourself to someone who isn't you. Don't have your mind, your talents, your gifts, your imagination, your creativity, your passions, or your ways of thinking. So this is where my urgency is. my urgency is again in effect discovering, learning, and loving myself so much that I pay attention to everything within myself. So with that knowledge that I gain about myself, I can point it in a direction that I choose to point it in. So again, let's go back to an example. If you love someone outside of yourself, right? You're going to learn things about them. You're going to pay attention to them. You're going to pay attention to certain things, what they like to eat, uh, kind of shows they like. Do they like comedy? Do they like drama? Do they like shoot 'em up, kill 'em, can't find 'em, right? My mom, my mom likes to watch shoot 'em up, kill 'em. But I know other people who like to watch shoot 'em up, kill 'em, can't find 'em, meaning they're missing, you know. Uh, so but you pay attention and you learn about those things. But how often are we taught? I mean, have you ever really been taught to look at those things about yourself seriously? Like beyond just a peripheral knowledge, oh yeah, 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 I like barbecue. No, no, I mean like really learn and study yourself. And so that's where my attention is. So my attention, and again, I'm hoping it helps somebody. Just dive so far deep into my own self, not from a self again, not in a dissing somebody else kind of way, but it's to say, man, I can offer my best self when I know my best self. And when I know my best self, then I can love my best self based on knowledge, based on acceptance, based on, realizing the unique talent that I am. Um, and then you could use that on the inside of you to permeate the rest of the marketplace of where you are, your space, your group, your kind, the people that mess with you, right? And then, as you do this, then whatever your goal is, whatever you want to be, whatever you had it in your mind that you wanted to accomplish in this life, the kind of way you want to function and move that you're not moving in right now, because something's stopping you, whether it's doubt, whether it's fear, again, whether it's comparisons. Don't worry about the finished product right away. Just start. Just start the process and start to be in love with that process because the process helps you develop the habits that you need, right? It don't mean you won't get the results. I mean, you want the results, but results tend to be kind of short-lived and short-lived celebratory, if you will. I remember one time when I was playing, I had my own basketball team. This was the early 90s and we won a city league championship. And like the year before, we won one game. The second year we won the championship. And I remember as bad as I wanted that championship, when we won it, it was an exciting game. We played over at St. Louis University. It was an exciting game, a fun game, an intense game, real close. We squeaked out the victory. We was champions. And so the goal was to win the championship, right? We spent 2 years, a whole lot of, we played on Sundays. So that's when the league was, but we had a whole lot of Friday nights and Saturdays working on our crafts and playing people like we used to rent gyms and like play people off the street. Y'all want to come hoop? You know what I'm saying? And that's how we would prepare ourselves. So we went through all of that, got the championship. And you know what I thought about after that? Like before I left the floor, I thought to myself, damn, we ain't got no practice next week. And I knew that for the next several months, outside of the cats on the team that I was really cool with, we weren't going to be seeing each other. We weren't going to be gathering. We weren't going to be fellowshipping. We weren't going to be talking trash and giving each other the business, like we did, all on the basketball court. We wouldn't be, competing with and against each other. And so, it took all that work and we got the result we wanted based on the work, but it was the process that I really yearned for. It was the process that gave me the most satisfaction. So that's why you have to be in love with the process. Uh, and we've heard people talk about that. Y'all, when you heard Kobe talk about it, in his later years, before, you know, he was tragically passed from this earth. But I got the feeling though that a lot of people don't know what kind of what they want to do, so they don't know what process to fall in love with. But you got to have something. I know what mine is. I know what mine is. And I'm not quite at the point, like I'm still making my contributions. I'm not making my best contributions yet because I'm still learning to love myself. I'm still learning not to compare. I'm still learning to find out what really makes me tick. I know some go-to stuff, you know what I mean? But I'm talking about you start getting imaginations and stuff and things that I never thought I could have seen this for myself. But I think I can now, right? I'm a tourist at heart. And I remember when I went to Asia last year, it was like a bucket list thing. It was like, man, I don't want to be in the United States, you know what I mean? And there was a time when I couldn't even afford to fly to California to see my mama when I was living in St. Louis. Um, but I remember reflecting on that and thinking to myself, man, that's really awesome. I can fly to California now if I need to. Although my mama ain't there no more, but uh, I can fly overseas. I could tap into that touristy part of me that's really curious about other cultures, languages, and the way they dance, the way they celebrate, the way they mourn, you know, all of that stuff. And I believe, like, see, all those things that make me who I am as an individual, that's what helps me to make the contribution. See, once I'm rolling in all of that at the same time, then my giving is so much more, again, directed. It's so much more fulfilling. It's so much more comprehensive. I said this before, where, when you talk about life purpose, whatnot, I think about that tree, the tree outside my door in the front yard, and that tree, you know, nature just kind of take care of itself. You know what I'm saying? Like it rains, and you get some sunshine, and then, the roots go down and all of that. And then, tree knows when the season comes, the leaves come on, and then when you got a few leaves, then you got full bloom. Fall comes, they start falling off, changing colors. Winter comes, then you got no leaves at all. And the next time, when the next season comes, it happens again, right? You ain't got to pray over it. You ain't got to lay hands on it. You ain't gonna put no spells on it. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna happen because the universe was already cut to function in a way that makes that happen. Whereas like the sand in the Sahara Desert, rises, travels all around Earth, and then lands in the Amazon, which is nourishing those trees, the wildlife. Like everything is just already in motion. So where the lion and the elephant got what we don't have, see, because we could build shit, right? We could build stuff, we could create things, and obviously our minds have, created, displayed some just far-reaching, most amazing things in life, right? But the people who are really doing that, for the most part, kind of know what they're here for. At least you think they would. The difference between us and the elephant is, or the lion, is hell, a lion know he's a damn lion. You know what I'm saying? He knows this is what lions do. I'm a hunt, we're gonna mate, we're gonna raise these cubs, and that's what life is gonna be about. So they know that. That's why, a lion's not walking around with some insecurity complexes, about, am I really a dog? You know what I'm saying? Like he knows he's a lion, so innate, he knows what to do. Like, and even when they become parents for the first time, to little cubs or their offspring, like instinctively, they already know what to do. No one has to teach them. So, but as humans, no, man, we're kind of told what to do, what we should do. We kind of told we should settle for. We become convinced that, you're only going to get so much. You just kind of here, then you die. You eat, try to have a good time, you know. But I don't think that's it. And again, my greatest fear, if I have a fear, is not dying. It's dying and realizing later on, man, Chris, with what you have inside, these are the things, this is the thing you could have been, you could have illustrated in the earth based on who you are and what's in you. But then you didn't for whatever reason that reason is. Again, whether it's comparisons, short talking myself, investing more in others than I invest into myself, right? That's what drives me. The urgency of now, which is I don't mind telling people I love you. When I love you, I love you. I'm gonna tell you. It's also the reason why I don't mind correcting something if I feel like that thing needs to be corrected. Uh, it's why I choose you can't choose your relatives, but I choose my family. I choose my friends, and all of that is with purpose. Some people be like, well, you could be friends with somebody who's MAGA, for instance. And I'm like, no, I can't. I can't because I can't be for someone who is for my destruction. Or someone who believes in a philosophy that is for my destruction. You're therefore an enemy. Well, if I bought into the wrong stuff that somebody else was telling me, then I would think that I would need to compromise my own principles, compromise my own mental health to have to deal with somebody where it's a one-way street. Because one thing MAGA would never do is listen to somebody who ain't MAGA. One thing MAGA would never do is be understanding about your viewpoint about whatever if it collides with theirs. So really, you the only stupid person out here compromising yourself because they ain't compromising themselves at all. You dig? So, so I say that to say now I'm making these decisions consciously as opposed to feeling like I should do this, I should do that. No, what I must do is what is intentional and is best for me, you know. So, as we start to wind this down, I just really want to encourage you, you know, start listening to your mind. Don't always fill your day with noise. It's 50, 11 million things out there to listen to look at, to talk to hell, you can have a AI generated buddy now, right? Therapists, they say, but you can't let the noise drown you out so much that you don't take time to be introspective, that you don't study yourself. You don't have to be amused 24/7. Sometimes it's okay to quote unquote be bored because boredom can breed curiosity and insight if you let it. So I would say start this journey, man, and then, hey, shoot for the moon, man. You might get a star. That's what I'm saying. Don't worry about the results. It's the process. It's the process. You got to have something to look toward. Yeah, you need a goal, but I guarantee you, when you reach that goal, as happy as you will be, immediately soon afterward, you will be looking for the next goal, as you should. So just like me going to the gym, the way I look at it, hey, I start from A. And wherever I end up, I'm winning. Even if I'm not sliced up like some of them other brothers I seen, even if I don't have the results out of my own body that I want to have at the end of the day, I'm still gonna be better. All right. And that's what I mean about the noise too. Like life can be lifing, but you can't let your life and your life's pace, you can't let it life you out of your pursuit to where you're always putting yourself last. Again, I give you an example. I work from home, get off at a certain time, and on most days during my busy season, I may have an hour, hour and a half, two maybe, to rest, take a nap, whatever, and then get to the gym or the field I need to be at. And then by the time I come back, man, I'm tired, mentally tired more than anything. I really don't want to do any work, you know what I'm saying? So, I just want to kind of amuse myself, veg out, recover. And I think there's a place for that. But at the same time, you can't be in so many activities that you neglect you, that you let life you to the point where again, you're taking care of everybody else's needs and not yours. You know, yeah, I work and working, you earn money for working. At the same time, though, you are taking care of somebody else's needs, right? I don't own the company I work at. So although I'm getting a transactional fee for that, I'm taking care of the needs of the owner, if you will, the needs of my coworkers, right? When I go do these games, I'm serving the needs of the players, the coaches, the fans, right? All worthy things to do. But if I do that so much without listening to my own heartbeat, without monitoring where my thoughts are, without evaluating my level of mental health, mental acuity, uh, then what you're just gonna end up getting burned out. Like that's what's gonna happen. It certainly happened to me more than once, you know. So now, I start like things in the morning. Like I may, before I get out of bed now, while I am sort of at my slower time of the years, getting ready to start picking up. But um, before I get out, I used to just get up and go log on to my computer, cut something on YouTube or a book or something or some music and just dive into it. You know, Now I'm like, okay, Chris, you're going to impact the day to day. You're going to be in control of your emotions. You know, you're going to bend the world. The world's not going to bend you. You're not just going to react to everything that comes at you. You're going to be the offense. You're going to be the force, not something that forces you. I will be the force today. And when I get that kind of settled in my mind, I toss them kind of words in my mind, or I say something to the extent of my existence is the validation I need to carry on. My very existence on this earth, the fact that I'm alive, the fact that I'm still here, when I know of several incidents that could have been happening where I wouldn't have been here. Like I can think of just a couple of times last week, just driving, and then get ready to get into another lane, somebody in your blind side that I couldn't see, but I hesitated, it didn't get over. And then all of a sudden that person just go right past me. And I'm like, say to myself, damn, I was that close. Right. So my existence is validation. And that's what you have to know about yourself too, man. Your existence is the validation you need that you're worthy, you know. And again, man, just like the gym, it's your journey. It's your life, you know? And like as you watch the gym and you watch other people, here's how you view people. You don't compare, you contrast, you appreciate it. So, you draw so now I draw inspiration, when I go to the gym. If I see somebody doing stuff and I ain't afraid, trust me. I let a person finish their sets if I see them doing something I ain't never seen before. Don't interrupt them, but I wait till they get done with their set. And I'm like, excuse me, what is that you're doing? What is this working on? Why are you doing it? Because sometimes they do stuff and it's not even pictured on like they kind of making their own thing up. They're using the machines, but they didn't, again, the human mind, then figured out some other stuff to do that ain't even designed with this piece, but it's safe, it's workable if you do it right, right? And so I'm gathering information, right? I'm using the tools and the geniuses that other people have to expand to my own game, right? Because remember, if contrasting is good because you're going to learn something. Appreciation, observation, right? Those are all great qualities, you know. But remember, you know, if you judge, it's not only a waste of time, you're going to think you're better than or less than. And it's really a banana in the tailpipe because the most important thing is you taking your eyes off your own self, your own abilities, your own talents that make you unique to anybody else who's ever been on this earth, who ever will be on this earth. Right? Your life is your own personal work of art. Right? And I would have to say, if my life was a personal work of art, and it is, I would have to say my artwork is an abstract. So anyway, that's all I got for now. Want to tell you real quick about our sponsor, Queso What? We're located at 3242-1 Rue Royale Court. I'm sorry, Rue Royale Street in St. Charles. 63301. They got some concerts out there this weekend. If you're in that St. Louis area, St. Charles, Illinois, surrounding areas, Southern Illinois, if you get a chance, go out there and check them out. And if you mention the For Real Though show, you will get half off your order. How about that? Half off your order one time if you mention For Real Though show. All right. So y'all stay safe, man, out there. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time on the For Real Though show. Stay safe. Peace.